All right, folks, welcome to hour number 2 of the Steve Malzberg Show. Exclusive interview with Robert Spencer, director of Jihad Watch, coming up in just a moment. And, of course, you know what happened in Boston yesterday. The terrorist, would-be terrorist who was killed and one who was arrested, and the plot to kill Boston police officers and, reportedly, behead Pamela Geller. We'll talk about that. But first, a couple of bits of information that you won't hear too many other places that I think you need to be aware of. And again, this flies in the face of the media. 2 decades, ladies and gentlemen, and this is a Breitbart story. 37 consecutive polls performed throughout the past 21 years on the issue of abortion by Gallup. 37 consecutive polls performed throughout the last 21 years by Gallup on the issue of abortion find and have found that a majority of Americans surveyed say abortion should be illegal in all or most cases. Did you hear what I said? You watch the media and you say, what, are you crazy? What, are you lying? What, are you making this up? That can't be. Everybody I see on TV is for abortion. It's the right-wing nut jobs that are against it. No. They lie to you on TV about the Islamic issue. They lie to you on TV about everything. I'm reading you from what Gallup has said. Now, here's another interesting fact. Oh, if you're for voter ID, you're a racist, right? How dare you make black people and minorities have to have a picture ID? That's racist. Well, 8 in 10 Americans, according to the latest Rasmussen poll, 76% to be precise, and even 58% of Democrats favor voter ID. But how could that be? Because they lie to you and they try to make you think that if you think the sky is blue and the grass is green, you're nuts. No, they're nuts. Remember that. Okay, we'll have more on both these issues at a later time, but now let's watch this.
In Muslim countries under the Sharia, there is a death penalty for blaspheming Muhammad. In the West, you're not assassinated, but your character is assassinated. You are defamed, libeled, and ridiculed if you dare criticize Islam. Drawing a cartoon, an innocuous cartoon, warrants chopping my head off? That's too far? I just don't understand this. They're going to come for you too, Chris. They're coming for everybody. And the media should be standing with me.
There's Pam Geller with Chris Cuomo on CNN. Robert Spencer had his own experience on CNN earlier today. Director of Jihad Watch, Vice President of the American Freedom Defense Initiative, which sponsored that event down in Texas. Hello, Robert. How are you, sir?
Just great, Steve. How are you?
I'm okay. Your reaction to the revelation that Pam was targeted by these 2 would-be terrorists?
Well, I have to say I'm not surprised. I mean, this is the only person in America who's standing up to them. This is the only figure in the whole United States who is standing up with any significant platform and saying, we're not going to kowtow, we're not going to submit, we're not going to bow down and show you that violent threats work. We're going to stand for freedom and the freedom of speech. They want to make an example out of her. They want to kill her because they hope that by killing her, they will frighten the rest of the Americans into submission. And they may well have a point, given the willingness, the even eagerness on the part of CNN and people like Chris Cuomo and the hosts that I was with today to submit. So she's become a very important symbol for the freedom of speech. And these people like Cuomo, they ought to have the sense to realize that this is a battle for the freedom of speech, that they will be next.
Well, you were with Berman and Baldwin, and yesterday, last night, Pam was with, oh boy, yes, Erin Burnett. And today she was with Chris Cuomo. Talk about your experience, because it's unfair to make you, comment on what Pam Geller went through. But I'll say what Pam Geller went through, especially with Erin Burnett, was outrageous. She brings up the Southern Poverty Law Center, says your group is a hate group, blah, blah, blah. I mean, this woman has just been revealed. She was going to have her head cut off if these people had their way. And they're saying, well, your group is a hate group, as if it's justifiable.
Yeah, as if that makes it okay. And see, it reminds me of Pastor Niemöller in World War II, and he said, first they came for the trade unionists, and I wasn't a trade unionist, so I didn't say anything. Then they came for the socialists, but I wasn't a socialist. And finally, when they came for me, there was nobody left to speak up for me. And it's the same thing. Everybody is in the mainstream media now is saying, well, Pamela Geller, she goes too far. Or Pamela Geller, she says things we don't like. Or Pamela Geller is right-wing or whatever, or a hate group like the SPLC, which is the real hate group, says. And they don't realize that they're going to impose Sharia upon all of us. was. And so when Pamela Geller is out of the picture, and God forbid if they got her, but if she were to be silenced, then they're not going to stop. They're just going to keep going, and they'll be emboldened by the victory. So all these leftist media types should be standing with Pamela Geller today, but they don't have the sense, they don't have the wit to realize the implications of what's going on.
Well, your treatment today on CNN on that show, I mean, describe it.
Well, I thought the richest question that I got was, are you reaching out to the Muslims in Boston to partner with them? And so I immediately thought of the Islamic Society of Boston, which is the chief, it's not just one mosque, but it's the leading Islamic center in Boston. It's the mosque where the Tsarnaev brothers went, along with Afia Siddiqui, who's doing 86 years for jihad terror plotting, Tariq Mahana, Ahmed Abu Samra, who was the Islamic State's propagandist until he was reportedly killed a few days ago. It was founded by Abdurrahman al-Amoudi, who is doing 23 years in prison for financing al-Qaeda. All these al-Qaeda types, jihadis, who went to this mosque, including Usama Rahim, who plotted to kill Pamela Geller, and they want us to reach out. Who are we going to reach out to? And they would say, well, no, that's that's just one mosque. Well, it's not just one mosque, but in any case, okay, so where are the other Muslims then who are protesting against the Islamic Society of Boston if they find its pro-terror links reprehensible?
And do you think it's because they don't know, or they're afraid themselves?
Do you mean the Muslims or
No,
CNN?
no, I'm talking about the two anchors.
Oh, I'm sure the anchors don't know. I'm sure the anchors assume, because they're told in their politically correct fantasy world, that the vast majority of Muslims condemns all this and abhors it and is fighting against it. Now, the vast majority of Muslims certainly is not waging active jihad, but they're also not doing a single thing to rein in their violent co-religionists. There's not a single program in the Islamic Society of Boston or in any other mosque in the United States to teach against the understanding of Islam that ISIS presents. And so they say they condemn it, they say they're against it, but they're not really doing anything to stop it.
Let me switch gears here for a second. The President of the United States, who calls himself the closest thing to a Jew, according to David Axelrod, to sit in the Oval Office. Basically, not only did he say there's no military option for Iran anymore, not only did he scold and throw Bibi and Israel under the bus in his interview with Israel TV, he also, when talking about Iran, said that he was actually a fan of a supporter, an admirer of Israel when he was a young man. And now he's afraid that Israel's going to lose the values that made it so great. I've never heard such a bunch of condescending BS, anti-Semitic, condescending BS trash from a president of the United States.
Absolutely, Steve. And it's pure propaganda. He's just cynically trading on the ignorance of the American people when he says something like that. Look, Pamela and I wrote the book, The Post-American Presidency, back in 2009. And we detailed in it his links to anti-Semites, to Palestinian jihad activists, right from the beginning of his political career. This man was never pro-Israel. He had a meeting with Edward Said at a conference in Los Angeles that was so incendiary, so inflammatory, that the LA Times, during the 2008 election, refused to release either the video or the transcript. They were obviously afraid that it would be so anti-Israel that it would damage his election chances. And this is consistent throughout the man's political career. Now he's claiming to be pro-Israel. It's absolute cynical, manipulative falsehood.
It absolutely is. Do you fear that he's going to allow that Palestinian state vote in the UN?
Absolutely, yes. This is something that it's a cornerstone of the leftist fantasy-based policymaking, that this will somehow bring peace to the Middle East. And so I'm sure it's going to happen. But the thing is, it's only going to be like Gaza. You know, we were all told that the Israeli withdrawal from Gaza would bring peace.
Yeah, that worked. Yeah, that really worked. Hey, Robert, thank you for accommodating us today, and we'll speak to you soon. Always a pleasure to talk to you, sir.
Likewise, Steve. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Robert Spencer, ladies and gentlemen. It is very interesting. It is when he said that he was always, as a young man, he was an admirer of Israel. Are you kidding me? Nothing he has ever said could be further from the truth, and this man lies like he breathes. We're coming back with Paul Bremer. Don't go away.